Welcome back to the state-by-state prediction series. We started in Pennsylvania, now let's head to Georgia. The closest state in the 2020 cycle, the Peach State, is again a closely contested battleground here in 2024 with 16 electoral votes at stake. That is the second largest prize among the 7 key battleground states on the electoral map, behind only Pennsylvania's 19 electoral votes. Now, Kamala Harris does hold a narrow edge among the states that are considered to be leaning in favor of either candidate, here in the race to 270 electoral votes, but with a difference of only 7 electoral votes separating Harris and Trump right now. The 7 key toss-ups, including Pennsylvania and Georgia, as well as Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada, are all going to play a key role in determining who wins the presidency this November. Let's dig into the data here before I get to the prediction section, starting with the previous presidential election results in Georgia. Now, Republicans had been victorious in 6 straight presidential cycles leading up to the 2020 election, as the last Democrat to carry Georgia, before Biden, was fellow Southerner Bill Clinton in 1992, although he notably lost it in his re-election year in 1996. Now, as a traditionally conservative Southern state, Georgia consistently voted for Democrats in 24 straight presidential elections from its creation as a state up until the Civil Rights Act was passed in the 1960s. Now, here in the 21st century, Georgia has again transitioned, this time from a reliably Republican state to now a competitive battleground, due to the rapid growth and diversification of Atlanta and its surrounding suburbs that have put Georgia back in play for the Democratic Party. Georgia has, of course, still voted to the right of the national popular votes in each of the last 3 elections. Given that Joe Biden won the national popular votes by 4.5% over Trump in 2020, yet only won Georgia by 0.2%, that means that the state still voted more than 4 points to the right of the national average. And these factors do lead the Cook Political Report's Partisan Voting Index to be R+3 in Georgia. Now, this metric assesses how a state leans compared to the nation as a whole based on how it voted in the previous 2 presidential elections. So in other words, if the national popular vote were tied, Georgia would be expected to vote for the Republican by 3 points. And now, taking a look at Georgia's trend compared to the nation since 2016, 2012, and 2000, we see that it has consistently become more Democratic. Georgia voted 12 points to the right of the nation at the start of this century and has since become about 8 points bluer. But even just looking at the shift between the 2012 and 2020 election cycles, Georgia's 7.5-point shift to the left is the 5th strongest of any state in the nation. That all being said, Georgia's elasticity score is notably the 3rd lowest of any state in the union. Now, this metric was created by 538 to assess how responsive states are to changes in the national political environment. Essentially, elasticity scores show the percentage points that a party can expect to gain in a state for every 1 percentage point the party gains nationwide. So in this case, if the national popular votes were to shift 1 point in favor of Trump compared to 2020, then Georgia would be expected to shift 0.84 points in favor of Trump. So in other words, Georgia is a relatively static state that is not prone to large movements in either direction. Taking a look at other recent non-presidential statewide elections for U.S. Senate and governor, we do see a mixed bag of success for both parties. Democrats have won the last 3 U.S. Senate contests, yet Republicans have won the last 3 governor elections. Most recently in 2022, while incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock prevailed in a runoff election by just 2.8% over Republican Herschel Walker, incumbent Republican Governor Brian Kemp defeated Democrat Stacey Abrams by 7.5 points in a rematch of the 2018 governor election, where she came within 1.5 points of Kemp. Now, I'm sure that we also all remember the runoffs of 2020, held in January of 2021, that is, and how Democrats managed to pull off upsets in both U.S. Senate runoffs. Warnock and Jon Ossoff defeated Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue by narrow 1.2% and 2-point margins, respectively. As for the polling data assessing the head-to-head contest between Trump and Harris right now, All 5 notable polling averages do have Trump leading by extremely narrow margins. 538, Decision Desk HQ/The Hill, and Real Clear Polling, probably the 3 most well-known averages for what it's worth, have Trump leading by margins of less than a single percentage point each. 0.7%, 0.3%, and 0.3% respectively. Each of these margins effectively suggests that the race is a toss-up, firmly within the margin of error here, and that does track with each of our notable forecaster ratings as well. Cook, Sabato, DDHQ, Inside Elections, and 538 each have the race in Georgia down as a toss-up right now. The only one to break from this trend is Split Tickets, as they have Georgia down as a lean Republican state right now in their latest ratings, although they have not released an update since May of this year. Now, those ratings track very closely with the prediction markets as well, as Polymarket and Metaculus give Trump a slight edge in Georgia right now. He has a 59% chance of winning on Polymarket and a 53% chance per predictors on Metaculus. Meanwhile, BetOnline places Trump's odds at -140, which effectively translates to a 58% chance. Finally, let's take a look at Georgia's demographic profile. The projection based on these data points and more suggests that Democrats should win Georgia by a margin of roughly 0.7%. That's because it ranks as one of the most diverse states in the nation, as just half of Georgia's residents identify as white alone, racially speaking, as of 2022. And we know that minority voters do tend to back Democrats by wide margins, as compared to white voters, that is, more broadly. For reference, Trump either won or came within single digits of Joe Biden in 19 of the 20 whitest states in the 2020 election. Georgia also ranks right smack in the middle of the pack in terms of the proportion of residents with a college degree, at approximately 35%, and in median household income. Biden notably carried 18 of the 20 highest-ranking states by educational attainment and also by median income in 2020. And further supporting Democratic success here is the fact that Georgia ranks among the top 10 youngest states and in the top half in urbanization. Younger and urban voters both lean more Democratic than the nation as a whole. On the other hand, Georgia is one of the most religious states in the nation, with 66% of Georgians identifying as religious in some way, shape, or form. And religious voters do tend to lean more socially conservative, and thereby the issue of abortion in particular may not be as much of a winning issue for Democrats here as in other states. Now, in our final slide, before we get into the prediction section, let's take a quick look at the county-level results from the 2020 presidential race. Again, Joe Biden carried Georgia by 0.2%, with a raw vote lead of less than 12,000 votes. This victory was driven by record turnout among black voters in Atlanta and an influx of young, college-educated voters from left-leaning areas of the country moving to Atlanta's suburbs in large numbers in search of job opportunities. And as you'd expect, as in many other southern states, voting patterns reflected a stark racial divide. White Georgians backed Donald Trump by 39 points, while black Georgians overwhelmingly supported Biden by 77 points. On that note, Trump's core strength came from southern whites, particularly those outside of Atlanta's urban areas, where he especially dominated among voters without a college degree, especially in rural regions, which he carried by 39 points again. Meanwhile, Biden carried the urban areas by 35 points, while Trump won the suburbs by a much narrower 3 points. Alrighty, it's time now for the prediction section of this video. Let's flash forward to election night on November 5th, 2024. Polls are about to close at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is the first big poll closing of the night, with the first results expected out of Georgia right now. It's too early to call in Georgia, the first of our 7 key presidential battlegrounds to close its polls on election nights. It may provide us with the first early clues in the race to 270 electoral votes tonight, as we do expect to have most, if not all, of the votes in out of Georgia by night's end. The first of which are in here. Just about 3% of the estimated vote is reporting, and Vice President Kamala Harris is out to an early lead, with 51.9% over Trump's 46%. Grab your popcorn and try to relax. We're sure to be in for a long night here in the Peach States. We've got another key race alert coming in out of Georgia right now. Kamala Harris expands her early advantage with 17% of the estimated vote reporting, 57.3% to 40.8%. It's an 140,000 vote lead for the vice president over the former president Donald Trump. 16 electoral votes at stake in Georgia, a key battleground we're watching tonight. Take a look at this. Our first peek at the county level returns in Georgia, where Harris's early lead has narrowed significantly here, as expected, with 41% reporting. It's a raw vote margin of just about 90,000 votes right now, separating the Democrat from the Republican, 51.4% to 47%. It's a tale of two geographies here tonight, as the Democrats look to run up the margins in and around Atlanta, while Trump looks to turn out his base in the Republican-dominated rural. Those are the votes coming in fast right now as the margin continues to narrow. We do expect Trump to take the lead here shortly and expand that lead out to a couple of points before the results then narrow again as the absentee ballots start coming in heavily in favor of Harris later in the night. It's simply a matter of whether those votes are enough to offset Trump's margins in the election day vote across the states. We'll just have to wait and see. Key race alert out of Georgia right now, where Donald Trump has taken an approximate 7,000 vote lead over VP Harris now, with a margin of 0.2 of a percentage point separating the candidates, 49.2% to 49% flat. Almost 3.5 million votes have been counted. That's approximately 68% of the total vote that we expect tonight in our latest turnout estimates. It's coming down to the wire in this must-win state for Trump, and we'll be back with more right after the break. Let's check in on Georgia, where Donald Trump has widened his lead over Kamala Harris, now ahead by almost 150,000 votes, 50.9% to 47.3%. That's the vote share, and that is with 82% of the estimated vote reporting. Now, reports from around the industry do suggest that the Trump campaign feels they're on pace to lock in Georgia's 16 electoral votes, but we have been surprised here before. Take a look at this. The race in Georgia is narrowing again. Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris by less than 82,000 votes now, with 50% to 48.2% and 90% of the votes now counted. EP estimates that less than 1 million votes remain to count across the states, as Harris will need to gain a significant chunk among those outstanding votes. We'll be keeping a close eye on the drops, soon to report in the deep blue Atlanta counties of Fulton, DeKalb, and Clayton. 96% of the estimated vote is out of Georgia now, and Trump continues to lead Harris, now by approximately 63,000 votes. It's 49.7% to 48.4% in favor of the former president. Again, 16 electoral votes are at stake in Georgia, a state that Harris may afford to lose, though it would shrink her path to 270 electoral votes considerably. Not quite like a loss would for Trump, as it's nearly impossible to see a path without the Peach State in his corner. EP official projects that 16 electoral votes out of Georgia, they are going to Donald Trump as the former president carries the Peach State, a key and perhaps a must flip for his campaign here tonight. Donald Trump wins in Georgia and adds its 16 electoral votes to his tally. He defeats Vice President Harris in Georgia as we take a look here at the final results. Trump leads Harris by roughly 45,000 votes, with 49.4% to 48.5%. It's a margin of less than a point separating the two candidates here, 0.9% to be exact. It's another extraordinarily close result in Georgia, as Harris fails to hold the state in the Democratic column 4 years after Joe Biden won by the narrowest of margins. And with this projection, Trump will take the lead in the race to 270 electoral votes with 235. He's 35 shy of the magic number, 270 again, with his most efficient path to that number coming via a hold of North Carolina and a flip of Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, Harris's most efficient path remains holding that core Rust Belt trio of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future predictions. Feel free as always to leave your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. That is it for this edition of the State by State series. You can feel free to comment your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. I appreciate them, positive or negative. Also, make sure to let me know down there what other 2024 related videos you would like to see in the future. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it and share it with your friends. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.